Hey everybody, welcome back to Concierge Confidential. I'm your host, Brian Ortega, and we are back for another week of Concierge Confidential. So, we're going to be diving in today to a topic that I think is going to be kind of fun to explore. We're going to be talking about things Vegas is doing right and things Vegas is doing wrong. So, I'm actually going to dive into the side of Vegas that I think are actually trending in the right direction and things that are trending in the wrong direction. And hopefully you guys might want to chime in. You guys can let me know in any of the comments for this particular show, or you can actually message me on, Instagram or TikTok or wherever, and I can go ahead and sort of dive into what you think is good and also what is bad about Las Vegas. But I thought this would be a fun little episode to sort of figure out what I think Vegas is doing great, and I really wanted to sort of expand on it and what I think the trend of Vegas is going forward. So obviously I won't cover everything that is right and wrong about Vegas. I'll do my best to think about the things that have come up over the past couple weeks, but we'll certainly dive into both sides of the argument in this particular episode. So this is Concierge Confidential. Okay, Brace, let's just go ahead and dive into it. So I'll try to do one of each. So, because I don't want it to be sort of one-sided in terms of, good stuff at the beginning and then bad stuff at the end. I kind of want it to be even. So I'll do one good thing and then one thing that I think that we can work on. So let's go ahead and dive into it. So the thing that I think Vegas is doing right, I think it's awesome that Vegas has really embraced old school 50s and 60s Vegas in terms of their dinner and shows. So back in the day, back in the 1950s and 60s at the Dunes, the Sands had the Copa Room, which is where the Rat Pack used to perform. And then even when you went into even the 70s, you would go see Elvis and they had dinner and a show. And he actually did two shows. So he would do the early show, which was typically had dinner at it, and the late show, which usually was cocktails. But they would have dinner and a show. And I think we're kind of making our way back that direction. Do I think that we're going to have headliners in our showrooms just like we did at the Copa Room? Not quite, but I think we are leaning in that direction. I think the thing is with millennials coming to Las Vegas, which is, what I am, they're now the ones with disposable income and the ones that are going to be here alive long enough to continue to keep coming to Las Vegas. And Las Vegas has always been about creating experiences for who's going to have disposable income for the next 20 to 30 years. And that's why you get a lot of people who are like Gen X, who are, have these sort of romanticized versions of Vegas from, the 90s and the early 2000s. And that's sort of gone away. And they're the ones that are saying things are going wrong and things need to get better. And really the thing is that Vegas is looking towards the future, and they're always trying to develop what is next. And the funny thing is that we are going back to what made Vegas great, and that was dinner and shows. You would have dinner, you could watch a show. It was all included. You didn't have to think about what time you were going to be at your dinner, so you can be at your show, which honestly is the most stressful thing in the world. It's like, do you eat at 5 o'clock for your 7 o'clock show, or do you eat at 9 o'clock for your 7 o'clock show? You just never know. So the cool thing about this is that many places, for example, like Mayfair Supper Club, which I go to frequently, offers dinner and a show nightly, every single night. It's on time. It's really, really great. And you can really sort of combine all of the pricing together. So you can sort of justify having a more expensive dinner because you're also getting a show at the same time. Go back, to the days of old, you would go to a steakhouse, you're probably spending about $250 for dinner, if you're lucky, and then you're going to have to spend another, $250 on a show. You're looking at $500 for an evening out in Vegas, which I mean is, respectable. It's doable. But it's a lot. And if you're going to do that for more than 3 days, then, it can get very pricey. So the cool thing with dinner, and show places like Mayfair, like Delilah's, is that you can spend, let's just say, almost the same amount, to be honest. And you're going to be in the same place. But let's just say, respectively, you spend about $300. It's all in one experience. And you can all sort of group it together, and you're going to spend a longer time there and not have to do as much planning. So I think this is a great, great direction that Las Vegas is going in, just because I think people love live music, and especially millennials. I mean, I wouldn't just sort of say it for millennials, but I think in general, human beings love seeing other human beings doing amazing things, whether that be singing, whether that be dancing, whether that be playing a musical instrument. We like seeing things up close, especially when other humans are doing them. Not to say that, Cirque du Soleil didn't do it, but it's just the fact that it's right there in front of you, and it doesn't feel like a magic trick. It feels like a talent that is learned. And I mean, again, this is always sort of sounding like we're putting down, shows in general. I think there's a place for them for sure. But I do think that we've gotten a little far in terms of the pricing for some of the shows, which, I mean, I used to sell these things all the time. And I used to say, oh, $100, that's doable. But, for two people for a show, that's $200. It adds up. So I completely understand where people are coming from in that aspect, which is why I think this is the direction that we're going. There's a little bit more of what I'm going to talk about this sort of in the later part of what Vegas is doing right. But I definitely think dinner and a show is awesome that it's going back together. And I really enjoy that. But I don't mean things like Poppy Steak or Mazan, Hassan, which is over at Palazzo, which is basically you're doing dinner, but like it's all part of a performance that seems like it's sort of outshadowing the food. I don't want that. I just like, nice music going on in the background while I'm doing my, eating my food, having a cocktail, and then, watch people sing and dance on it. So it's great. If you are somebody who really enjoys doing these type of dinner and show combinations, always recommend Mayfair Supper Club. Is always great for bachelorette parties. It's even good for date nights, of course, but that's always great. Delilah's, if you can get in, is fantastic. It's every single night. If you go on Sundays, typically on Sundays they have a jazz night where it's a little bit, jazzy themed, of course. Highly recommend that. And then also, if you want to get a little bit crazy, Super Frico is really, really fun just because you get all these different acrobatics going, in and out of your own little sort of dining space, which is extremely fun. So there's many things out there that you can experience of, the combination of dinner and a show for sure. So let's go ahead and go, to the other side. Let's talk about things Vegas is doing wrong. So I actually ended up staying at the New York when my parents were in town for the Super Bowl. And I have to say, the parking situation is super annoying. And again, being somebody who, I've heard all the complaints about parking, I never really had to park and leave at a property as much as I did during the Super Bowl. And oh my God, we have to figure this out, guys. So my mom is at a Pearl level, which allows you to get free parking. And they could never figure out the whole system of going in and out of the parking structure. And every time I had to leave, I had to pay every single time. In and out, I had to pay. And my mom, on the other hand, sort of had to do the similar, like the first whole, 2 days, because they could not get the key card to work on the little system. They are doing it good by actually having somebody at the, the actual station now, but this is really becoming an issue. And honestly, I think it's one of those things where you just have to update your system. That's really, really important. But also, I think this is right. I think Fountain Blue is actually doing a great job of it, which I think is, commendable for them. If you are staying at the hotel, you do not have to pay for parking. And I'm totally for that. I think many people are for that. If you're staying at the hotel, you should not have to pay for self-park. You could just lump it in with your resort fee, which is part, I'll mash these together. Resort fees are astronomical nowadays. They're around $50 a person. $50 a night. And again, what are those things that you use? And again, this was the biggest thing that we would just sort of rattle off. And then when you're just a normal human being and you say it out loud, it's difficult. It's difficult to really sell this to somebody, but it's sort of like you have to take it, and that's how you got to do it. But what do you get with your resort fee? Typically, what we tell people you get with your resort fee is the Wi-Fi, which honestly you can get for free at most properties by just signing into the guest Wi-Fi. It's just as good. I don't even think it's any slower than the actual hotel stay Wi-Fi. So that's one. You get access to the spa. Cool. What if I'm not going to the spa? To the gym. What if I'm not going to the gym? Why do I need to use the gym if I'm here on vacation and I don't want to use the gym? Well, that's another one. The other one is a notary service. That used to be a thing. we really don't. Who's unless you're a business person, which happen every blue moon. When are you notarizing something? And also, if that notary is not available, you have to go to a different property that offers a notary, which would happen quite often for people at New York, New York. They would have to come over to MGM Grand, where we did have a notary on hand. So it's another one. It's a notary. Awesome. Fantastic. Local calls. That was another fun one. I guess. I mean, when you don't have a cell phone, I guess it comes in handy. But typically, if you're in your room, I guess that's maybe when you would use it. So the cell phone. And then I think the last one. Always forgot the last one. I think I covered them all. But wouldn't it be so easy just to add parking onto that? If you just said, hey, this covers your self-park or your self-parking fee, I think you would get less complaints about actually staying in the hotel. So again, that's just one of those things that hotels like to make free money off of, to be honest. That's certainly something that hotels have found, loopholes around. And again, I don't like sort of knocking the whole nickel and diming thing. I mean, it is super annoying, and it's sort of an easy thing to pick on hotels with. But again, when you're getting paid, charged for parking and the resort fee, it is kind of a lot. So again, if you are going to be utilizing South Park, I think that should be included in your resort fee stay. So again, parking, really a big one that I wanted to talk about. So moving on, let's go ahead and talk about what I love that is happening now, especially in newer hotels, and even, older hotels are catching on to this, and that is lounges. We have way more lounges now that are, high end. It doesn't feel cheesy. So to be honest, you guys, watch my content, if you could check it out on Concierge Confidential _LV on Instagram. You could also check me out on TikTok, which is at Keys to Vegas. But you notice that I don't go to a lot of properties, like, for example, the Caesars properties. I don't go to Planet Hollywood a lot. I don't go to Paris a lot, Bally's, just because I feel like a lot of these places do not have the lounge game that I'm looking for. Again, if you're here on a budget, these are great properties to go to, even though, Paris is beautiful on the inside, and they have Vanderplumps, but again, Vanderplumps is sort of the other side of the spectrum. But so many lounges at those properties feel so like lower limit to me, like where I don't like to go hang out at. They don't feel Vegas-y to me. It's not my Vegas. That might be your Vegas, and that's totally fine. But they just don't have that anything to them. It feels very sort of, generated. So I love that many hotels now are really putting an emphasis on these lounges where you're having an extended stay inside of one place. For example, Fontainebleau. Fontainebleau has beautiful lounges on the inside. They have Azul, which is their tequila and mezcal bar. They have Solo, which is a great high limit bar. They also have the Collins, which has become one of my favorite bars at Fontainebleau, where just a simple thing like a live piano player adds so much just character to the place. And I think that's really, really important for a lounge, which I'll talk about a little bit later, obviously. But love lounges. And it's not just there. They just opened over at the Bellagio Pinky Ring, which I reviewed on my last episode. If you want to go back and listen to it, it's on this feed, where we really sort of re-emphasized lounges, where it's an ultra lounge. It's a place for adults to be able to go, have a drink, let their hair down, have a good time that isn't the nightclub. There's plenty of nightclubs in Vegas, but it's actually really hard to find a lounge where you're able to sit, have a conversation. Even if you're not having a conversation, it feels like an upscale lounge. You know what really muddies the waters when it comes to lounges? And I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this particular take, is video poker machines. Nothing cheapens a lounge or a bar more than video poker machines. I do not like video poker machines. I get there are people in the world that say that's your best edge when it comes to gambling, which, could be true. But nothing makes your beautiful marble bar look any more cheap than a big giant ass slot machine right in the middle of it. And again, I don't like it. I think it cheapens everything we have, and I think we really need to, especially for lounges that are going to be specific for drinking and sort of creating an experience, to not have them. I think it's really going to help, the aesthetic of the actual place. There's plenty of places that you can put video poker machines. You could put them at the, center bars. You could put them at, the casino bar itself. There are plenty of places to put video poker machines, but I don't think they belong in lounges. I don't think they belong in restaurants. They really just make everything way more cheap than they have to look. But again, back to lounges. Really excited to see where they're going with the sort of whole lounge trend. I went to the Durango, which is a new hotel that was just built, and they have a beautiful lounge called the Bel Air Lounge, where it just feels like a nice place where locals can go, have a couple cocktails, talk about what they did that day in a very social atmosphere. It's indoor outdoor, which even looks even better. And again, I just think it's one of those things that it's nice to have a nice lounge to go to. Lounges are great. I think people who enjoy lounges, you end up staying there. I went to the Collins over at Fontainebleau. I usually go there, have one, maybe two drinks. I stayed there for 3 drinks because it was such a good atmosphere. The great bartender also had a beautiful piano player. He was doing a great job. And again, these are the experiences you take with you when you leave your vacation. You build your vacation of how you want your memory to be of it. That's really what it is. You build your vacation around what you want. And I think having so many of these options are very, very important. Again, for somebody who wants to go hang out at Harrah's and have that type of vacation, that's good for you. We have plenty of those. But I think we are super low in terms of lounges, and I think we're getting back to it. And I'm really, really excited to see where we go with the lounge game in Las Vegas, because I think that was the staple of Vegas in the 50s and 60s. You got a lot of good acts in those days, and I think that'll be really good. So moving on, don't want to harp on the lounges too much, but let's just talk about this. Prices. We're still on prices. So the one I have the biggest gripe with, and that's because I actually wanted to do a steakhouse for you guys, a week or two ago, was that it is very expensive to go to a steakhouse in Las Vegas. I was actually looking at a couple of places that I've never been before, and I was looking at the price, sort of adding it up in my head, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do this, because honestly, guys, a lot of steakhouses in Vegas taste the same. A lot of them very much sort of feel and taste the same. So it's really hard for me to go into some place saying I'm going to spend, so much money, and then I'm going to have a very meh experience after I'm done. So a lot of places, again, just priced just astronomical. I mean, if you go to a place, and typically a steak in Las Vegas will range between $68 and $80. That's sort of a normal USDA wet or dry aged steak. A lot of places nowadays, you're getting into the $90 and $105 range for those type of steaks, for like a New York strip or a ribeye or something of that nature. And God forbid you get a tomahawk, which is going to cost you $200, but an A5 Wagyu, which is going to cost you by the ounce. Steakhouses have gotten to the point where you cannot go by yourself. It's better to go as a couple. The cuts of meat are much larger, so very shareable, which then becomes, more doable as a couple. But man, so let's just break it down. You go in, you're gonna spend $80 on a steak. It's $75. So let's say $80 on a steak. Then you're gonna, get a side. Your sides are gonna be $15 to $20. You're now already at $100, and that was for a steak and a side. Maybe you want an appetizer, so you add another $20 on top of that. So now we're at $120, and we haven't even got a drink yet, and we haven't even had dessert yet. So honestly, it's gotten so expensive. And if you get a cocktail, add another $20 to that. So now we're looking at it, we're just adding it up. I never like to do this adding game of just adding things up to how expensive things are. But it feels like at steakhouses specifically, and again, steakhouses are meant to be expensive. They're meant to be luxurious and extravagant. And there are plenty of steakhouses that I love to go to, will gladly go to. Carver Steak, love Carver Steak. They have so many great things on the menu. Other places that I would go, I really, really like Barry's is really good. Other steakhouses that I really enjoy, I mean, Prime is quite good as well. What's the other one? Oh my goodness, at Park MGM. Bavette's is fantastic. And then also we have Craft Steak is so good, which is over at MGM. These all feel very worth it. But it's when I start going to other places, like I was looking at, going to Barry's. I was looking at going to Oscar's. I was looking at going to Gordon Ramsay's steak at the Paris. And you just look at it and you just, man, I'm going to walk out of here spending over $200. And the thing is that you guys obviously follow a lot of different, social channels. And it's important to note, when I go out, I do spend my money. So I actually end up getting things that I think a single person would be able to eat, that wants to be, maybe a touch more on the, bougie, extravagant side, but still sort of has a budget. And that's why I don't go to like these like marketing events where you have to remember when you see those marketing events, and now this is sort of turned into a calling out other other creators, is that the marketing events are for like 15 to 20 people. And, sometimes it's a smaller group. Sometimes it's like 8 or 10. But let's just say it's, up to 10 to 15 people, and they're all sampling all these different things. That is why you see all these extravagant items. It's very rare that somebody by themselves will go and get, the giant platter for $500 with a seafood tower and lobster tails and all that by themselves. So it is very, very rare. So that's why it's important to note that that is sort of how I do it. And again, no knocking people who show it on, in the world. But again, a normal person will typically go, and I try to show them as many options as possible of when I went to the actual place of business. But again, the prices for steakhouses have gotten just astronomically high. And I think it would be nice to sort of regulate that. But again, stop charging people for bread. I hate when people charge people for bread. Bread should be free. I'm really tired of saying that. So, I'll just sort of squeeze in another one here that I think is wrong with Vegas, is just the corporatization of everything. What does that mean, you may ask, Brian? And really, it's everything that Aria does. So everything that used to be cool about Vegas was that you can walk into a spot, tip a 5, tip a 10, whatever, get a seat, sit down, enjoy your night. I really don't enjoy that you have to have a reservation to go to lounges. Reservations for dinner, I'm okay with that. You got to have a reservation for dinner. That's how they want it. That's okay. They have to know sort of their cost. Your alcohol is going to be there for a lounge. And for lounges, I want you to have the option to do it, but I also want the option of being able to just walk into a place, which is why I really enjoyed Pinky Ring. Pinky Ring is very much set up where you have to have a table reservation to have a good time. You have to go in, you have to get your seat, you have a spending minimum, you hit it. But you are able to just walk up to the bar, walk around, look at stuff, take it in, and then, go. They have a capacity, fine, that's okay. But you're able to still walk in and go up to the bar. Places like Easy Speakeasy, which I love to use as an example, are what I hate about Vegas. I really hate that for Easy Speakeasy, which has become very, very popular online, it's way too dark. You can't see the stage from the bar, and the bar is also quite small. There's also a giant pillar in the way. Also, you do have to have a reservation for a table, and even if you have a reservation for a table, you have a time limit put on you to sit at that table, which I think is horrible. It's horrible. You're paying for just, an hour and a half of your time? You're paying that money so you can have it for the rest of the evening. And yeah, are we going to get to a number? Sure. Are we going to go over that number? Probably, if I'm able to stay there longer. But when you put me on a time frame, then it's sort of I'm looking at my clock, looking at my watch, having to worry about it. So I think, again, this corporatization makes everything so much less cool in the city. And we were the king of cool in this city for the longest time. The lounge acts were great. You'd be able to walk in, drink, have a good time, and you never really knew where the night was going to lead you. And I think that's what was great about Las Vegas, which, again, we're bringing back more lounges, and I think we're doing a good job of using that experience. So places like, Collins is great. Other places like at Palazzo, like you can go to, Wakudo, which is one of my more favorite lounges. You can go to Juliet Lounge, which is over at, the Venetian as well, which they have, live acts. I just think those are the kind of places that people like. Because people, when they come to Vegas, don't typically have a plan. I always tell you guys about having plans, which is, fine. It's okay to have a plan. I think it's important to have plans. But when you get later in the night, you never know where your plans will take you. And I think that's the fun of Las Vegas, is just not always having a plan and sort of getting lost somewhere in the casino. And you never know who you might meet. So, moving on, I do want to finish up with one of my things that I think is sort of the overall theme of this, is that anything live is better. And I think having live music in your lounges and restaurants is just beautiful. Perfect. I was actually walking through MGM Grand with my parents to go to the monorail to go see Kool and the Gang. And Two instances of this. The new Jonas Brothers restaurant, which forgetting the name at the moment, which is located right by the monorail, which took over the old Mexican place at MGM. They have live music in there. They have a guy on a piano. They have a singer. It's just fantastic. It's just nice to have that sort of live vibe. It makes you want to stay. It gets you excited. It makes you want to order more drinks. And I think that's really good business model for these places. And again, going back to the Collins, which is one of my more favorite lounges that I just had, they have a piano player. Every time that he's there, I'm excited to be there. I'm excited to have a drink, talk to my favorite bartender. And again, those cocktail lounges, the bartenders really want to get to know you, but they're so professional where they know just how much to talk to you, how much to give you some rope. There's it's sort of a dance that you're playing with each other, you know. But again, these live venues are just so good. It just adds so much to it. But you have to have it. Going back to, Fountain Blue, because I've been there a lot lately. Azul, which is their, tequila mezcal bar. They had a live, roaming band that night that had so much energy and it was so much fun. Every night that I've gone back there since, it's dead. It's super dead. And why? Because they don't have anything going on. The music kind of sucks in there. There's not any live music. And I don't know if I'm going the wrong days or what it is. But what's going on? Let's figure it out, guys. You got to figure it out. You got to match the level of all the lounges or else you get eaten up. I thought the Collins bar was going to be dead. I thought it was, dead on arrival. No lounge singer, no nothing. It's going to be gone. It's now one of my more favorite bars. Nowhere Lounge, which is upstairs, super popular. It's become a spot. And I think Azul, where it is located, should be better than what it actually is. And I think they got to figure that out. But again, live music in places, I think, is key. Where did I go? So we went to Westgate. So we're at Westgate. We get there. Kool and the Gang is playing there. And what do they have in the main lounge when you walk into the door? You have a band, a whole band playing there within the bar, right next to the bar. You have people in there. You have people standing. What are people going to do? They're going to order drinks. That's more revenue for you. I think this is a great business model that we're figuring out, that people will stay longer if there is a live band there to play for you. And I think people just love doing that. They just know they have this connotation of what Vegas is, and they're getting it from that. And again, you have natural breaks, and then that's when people can come, go, whatever you want. But then you get a new batch of people that can come in, and boom, you're there. Again, Pinky Ring, I think, is a great example of what Vegas is going towards. And back to ultra lounges, live music, where you can dance, have a good time for adults. And I think this is really, really important to mark out. So, again, live music, I'm always down for it. By the way, calling everything speakeasies needs to go. I'm done with it. Guys, stop doing it, guys. Stop doing it. Other little gripe, a lot of Mediterranean coming in the world, and I think we need a different food culture in Las Vegas in terms of what we're bringing into town. Although I think it's okay. I just think it's a trendy thing. I think you're going to get lots of Mediterranean out there, and then we're going to sort of recede to the norm, if you will, as we go through. So again, these are some of the things Vegas, I think, is doing right. Some of the things I think Vegas is doing wrong. Overall, I think Las Vegas is always changing and sort of figuring out what it wants to be. But I think we are in the right direction in terms of things that I like, which is, having a show with your dinner, and then also the lounge game is just stepping up immensely in this town. I did get a lot of requests in terms of things for your personal trip to Las Vegas, which I'm working on right now, which is a bachelor party, which is quite extensive. So I'm doing my best to actually put that together, and hopefully I'll have a little bonus episode or be one of my later episodes in the week that you can follow. But that'll be about a bachelor party. So hopefully that one comes out the way they like, and I'll try to give my best recommendations on that single pod. We'll typically try to be back here on Thursday or Friday with either review or, something else that I found out during the week. But again, really appreciate everybody listening. You can follow us on any of our social channels, Concierge Confidential _LV, or on our TikTok at Keys to Vegas. And again, I'll be around town as much as I can be. We have the Las Vegas Marathon, which is why I didn't go out during the weekend, because Jesus, that's a lot of people But I will be out and about looking at other things, maybe do more lunch spots. I've been told that I don't do enough brunch things, so I'll try to sort of space it out to see what I can do while I'm out here in the city of sin. So again, if you see me out in town, feel free to come up and say hello. Again, my name is Brian Ortega, and remember, keep it confidential.